Hey, 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 it is December 12th, 2026, man, and I cannot believe who's...
2025. Don't take a year away from
Oh
us.
my gosh, what
Don't,
are
don't
we...
subtract the year. It's already been too long since I've been here to begin with.
Oh, yeah, the last time, hey, Tony V is here. If anybody doesn't know, he's Tony Vitello. He is the former baseball coach at the University of Tennessee. Last time he sat in the hot seat, it was 2019 in September, correct, Ben? Yeah. So it's been a while. I mean, we've caught up and had some lunches and chopped it up and had a cool little spot top left up there eating breakfast, right? I got that one. I was like swole patrol on that one. I was going through some rough times. Griff, I was going through some rough times on that one. I'm like, get me home. Yeah, not for that reason, but just like I had to watch some things at home. So I was like, get me the hell home so I can watch what's going on. But that meal hurt. But yeah, Tony looks great in that. His father's in that. Randy Boyd's in that. And the gentleman next to me, I forget his name. He was awesome.
Bob Petrone was there. And then
the assistant, the UTA.
And Tyler Johnson was there.
That's who it was. Yep. That's who
it
was.
We had a crew. Randy Boyd was great to us.
Oh, yeah. That was amazing. That was a Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame day with the Todd Helton. So that was...
Todd, here's the both of us speaking as well during this as Todd spoke during his speech. Absolutely nailed it. When you got to go up there with Jim Leland, and also it's a hot day, and the day's always long to give everybody their just due. It has to be. He crushed it just like he used to crush baseballs. That was awesome.
And he was so nervous about that speech. He was his daughter was trained at the time when he was getting ready for it. And he's like, I'm going out to the car. I've hired somebody to help me work with that. And like you said, following Leland, I was like, good. That was amazing. But that was a great day. So, Tony, what the hell is going on, dude? It's been forever. I mean, it's been forever since you've been over the house. The guy's so polite, takes off his shoes. We eat, we chop it up. I didn't get to feed him sausage this time, but maybe next time he's in town. I don't know. The guy's... He's moving around at 100 miles an hour. I mean, he is everywhere. He's the hottest ticket in town. So take me through. Remember, I was asking a couple of questions at lunch about the success of the program when you got there through 2019 to what you've done to it. And then I remember asking you this question at lunch. Is it the recruiting, the talent? Is it the coaching? What is it now? Because it's all foreign to me because I just sit in this wood gym and train people. You're out there. You're doing the whole NIL deals, the transfer portals, all that stuff is so foreign to guys like me and Pennington, even Helton, and we're so older and we don't understand any of that. How did the success come from that to World Series champ?
I don't know. There's a lot of different things that have happened over the years and a bunch of different categories you could break down. But the first thing I thought of when you said 2019 is I was trying to put myself in that year where we were. And in 18, it was our first year, and we really didn't have success. But in 19, guys wanted it. They were hungry for it. And then when they were able to get a little bit of it, you could see that hunger grow like no other. And it's what you do every day in here. People come back to you because you show them results. And so that motivates them, and you get even hungrier. We've all been down that path. When you get in good shape, you want to be in better shape. And it can go the opposite way, too. Whatever bad habits you have going on, you may sink into that kind of downward spiral. So I think looking back on it, first of all, you always got to have players. And we inherited some really good athletes, but not enough in our league to have what we needed. And we added a little bit of firepower. We have a little bit of success. And people in that building started raising their standards. And more importantly, I think raising the level of hunger they had they really wanted to see what it was like to do this or do that or do that. And it was kind of cool how we had a first and then another first. And then we did this thing for the first time. And it led all the way to what you were talking about.
So do you think, I know talking to Chad Pennington, one of my four horsemen on the wall that I had since 15, and he's an awesome guy. And he was always telling Jimmy Haslam, who owns the Browns, another client that trains out of here, he was saying the culture starts with two people, the head coach and the quarterback. So I'm going to give you props because I love you, but I think it started with you because everybody was like, I'm like, he's so nice. And, they're like, no, you don't see him on the field. He could be a real bastard on the field. So do you think the culture changed when you came in and they watched how you do things compared to even like your staff? I know how much you love your strength coach. I mean, did it all come together to make the culture what it is now to who you are?
Yeah, I think the two things for me, let's take a back step and look at the ingredients that are here at Tennessee. Facilities, the league you're in, the history is available. In recent history, it hadn't gone quite as well as it could have. But the ingredients were there, first of all. I think that's important. It's difficult sometimes to be in some places where guys have to coach. But Frank Anderson, our pitching coach, was a guy who had always had success. He had been in several situations where the head coach was on the hot seat. He gets the job, and then next thing you know, the program's not only doing well, but they're crushing it. And so I figured before I get on the hot seat, might as well just hire Frank right out of the chute. And so he was labeled our pitching coach, but really he was my mentor. He was the shepherd of the facility and the team. And then based off NCAA rules, a strength coach is always important because how you wake up and get out of bed in the morning and live your life based off nutrition and sleep and of course workout habits. It leads into a lot of other things. But with the NCAA, the strength coach can be around the athletes more than the coaches can. So, you mentioned Quentin Everhart. Those two guys are coming with me to San Francisco for good reason, and I'm excited about it. And I think they'll help a ton. But here at Tennessee, I think those two guys led the way on the culture piece.
So they shared the same values, the same morals, like you were talking about getting up early and handling the day, and they could be around. So it was an extension of you of the same mission. I mean, the way you took that program, we've been around forever. I finished in Tennessee in '91 and watching the baseball program. And I remember being with you early and having talks with Pops, Mr. Haslam, and we got to get our facilities up. I remember Akazi's with Helton with you. We got to get our facilities up. Are they up to where you wanted them?
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. It's been a minute. The Oklahoma football game was the last time I walked into the baseball stadium. And actually, at that point, the turf had been torn up. They're replacing it this year. So it'll be a new playing surface. The walls will be painted the highest the stadium's ever been because there's suites now available. A guy like Todd or Peyton Manning or Morgan Wallen really couldn't go to the games and hide if they wanted to, or have privacy would be a better way to say it. Our fans are phenomenal, which means you get love if you're Todd Helton. So it'd make it tough to watch the game. So aesthetically more pleasing, the setup is better, and then a bigger number of fans will be in attendance. So it's more on par with what the best of the best is in the SEC with the facilities.
So the attendance, what is that park? How much does it hold?
So there's so much standing room now because when you build a facility like that, you're building it for postseason. And in the postseason, you're never going to have enough tickets, whether it's South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee, Florida State, you're not going to have enough seats. So it's standing room only is how many do you want to try and cram in there? But if you're just talking about the max capacity, it's probably going to be around 8,000 this year. And the bigger crowds we ever had were, just over 7,000, mid 7,000. But the cool thing about our fans here in Knoxville is, and they come from all over, but when they're here, they're active. They didn't drive here to sit on their hands or, clap softly. It's involvement and it's get after it. And now, blessing, curse, whatever you want to call it, on the baseball side of things, it's like football. There's high expectations. And last year, we've been on the positive train the whole time, which is good. And this isn't necessarily a negative, but last year there was a moment about halfway through the year where I was like, we're at a different spot now. I can hear the things the fans are saying, and now it's no longer good enough to just compete in the SEC or to win. They expect different things, and with that is a different tone. And you can look at it two ways. They pay their ticket and say whatever they want, which that's a fact, and I believe in that. But also being a part of a team, leaving here in Knoxville, I hope I'm welcome back, and I want to come back. But I hope at the very least, dumb, smart, competitive, winner, loser, I feel like I was a good teammate. And if you're truly a Vol fan, and some people just go to the game to go to the game, but if you're truly a Vol fan and you're wearing orange, you're on the team. So if we lose, it's not because we didn't call this play or we didn't sack the quarterback or anything. It's just we lost. Our group was not as good as it needed to be today. And hey, if we're talking a 1-point game, maybe there was a play where the crowd could have been louder or, or more positive. And it would have changed the 18-year-old's mindset when he's running a pattern. You don't know. You've been around athletes and you know how much every rep in a squat rack or whatever goes into success or not. So anyway, to backtrack is interesting. I think our baseball program has reached a point where it is kind of like football and men's and women's basketball. The expectations are great.
So, did you see the progressions coming? You know how like you have to manifest and see the progress and go, okay, by this time, 2019, 20, 21, 22, all the way through, did you go? I know it has to do with, you talk to me privately a lot about the recruits and carrying so many people, and it boggles my brain of the things that you have to think as a head coach of a baseball team of that caliber. Did you see it going, we got the team? We're not going to lose. We're that good. And I know you can't control the outcome, and I get all that. We talked about that on the podcast, but the years building where you're like, okay, we're going to have a down year. Okay, we're going to have this year. Okay, we're going to have this year, compared to, okay, we won the World Series. Now the next year, like you said, choose your hard. What do you do after that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you were to write a perfect script, we had Augie Garrido, the winningest college coach ever, come speak to us, and he declared it the decade of the Vols. And that was a mindset, a great speech, and it was also something that we carried on and put a I guess you'd call it a poster, a banner with that saying on it in the facility. And I think if you could map it out perfect, this would be year 9, the first year of the new baseball stadium. Next year would be 10, the final year of the Vols, as far as the Vols, the decade of the Vols, I should say. That next year, which would be the 27 season, should be the year, if you're going to map it out perfect, that we win a national championship.
And this is 2025, by the way. Okay,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you were there for 8 years?
Yeah,
Or
9.
9.
Yeah,
And the World Series was the year before this year, correct?
Correct.
I keep up with so much, so like it's bananas how we just sit in this think tank.
Yeah, it was nuts because COVID-19, we were in here and we're like, hey, things are going a little better. And then in 20, I mentioned Frank, myself, you'd rather under deliver over, or under promise, over deliver. In 20, we're like, holy hell, we're good. And we're not anywhere in the rankings. And for Frank or someone to say like, we're good, Coach E was like that too. We were about to sneak up on some people, and COVID happened, and we feel like we got robbed from using maybe our most athletic team of any year. So then in 21, it's kind of like a sense of bitterness that fueled that team a little bit. And it was the first time we had success in the SEC in 21. And then in 22, we didn't think we'd be that good because we lost so much. And all of a sudden, that team's beating people by 10 runs all the time. It was weird. Everything came like a freight train.
So can you predict a team, or you can't predict a team?
I think you can predict some themes that'll come up, but I don't think you can predict what'll happen day to day, because you don't know until you're in it. And there's a lot of ebbs and flows to a season that occur with, all of a sudden, hey, it could be a guy broke up with a girlfriend, or now he's got a girlfriend and he's a big impact guy, or a coach and a player have it out and that relationship never recovers. Or nowadays it could be, hey, a guy's going in the transfer portal, and baseball is a sewing circle. You find out like that. And some of these kids are making decisions probably way too early, if I could say that. So there's a lot that can happen in the middle of a season to derail it or to add to it. And there's for every team that was crushing it during the year, the Washington Nationals, I was at Game 7 when Yan Gomes won a World Series. Jan and I shared I hope we had our own cigar. I think we shared a cigar moment. We each had our own cigar out back after Game 7, and he walked me through that team spring training till Game 7. And it was a rocky road through much of the season. But when they found their stride, it was at the right time. And all those struggles, they're hard, that came before, the end of the season, made them better.
Yeah. So again, I don't know how you'd say this, but even me seeing you and meeting you early on and watching the progression, how do you handle that? Because everybody was like, oh, do you talk to Tony? I'm like, we do, but not as much. And I know he's busy. Not saying the big head, but how do you handle like watching that grow, and then knowing, being here since what, 86, knowing how UT people are. I'm like, he's engulfed in that. Like he's all about that now. And it's how do you who keeps you grounded? I always talk about self-check of having mentors and people going, stay here, stay there. I know I have several from young kids all the way to older kids like Mr. Haslam to keep you whatever these accolades are. How do you manage that? I know I met your father and he's typical
Yeah.
northern dude like my dad or whatever. He's got it, but how do you manage that knowing it's Tony, 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 Tony. That's all I've heard all the time. It's like a celebrity type status, and knowing you giving us time today, that's not who you are at all. So
Yeah.
how do you keep that grounded?
I think my past, you already mentioned it, my dad, but my past, my parents, the household I grew up in, and then also the struggles I had as an athlete, like with the scar tissue I have, some actual physical, but more kind of on the internal or mental side of past failures or just not one to accomplish as much you want or not make your parents as proud as you'd like to. Like that ain't ever leaving me. And it's a big part of who I am. And so for me, it'll always be comical to me to be standing next to Christian Moore and Blake Burke. One guy's already been in the big leagues, the next one will. They both played at Tennessee. And for someone to come up to the three of us and either ask me to be included in a picture or they just wanted my autograph, and I say that humbly, it's comical to me because I'm still the same guy. I was a walk-on at Missouri because my dad was a high school coach. They basically were doing him a favor. And then I was a guy who got hired by Coach Jameson. I love him, but he didn't know what else to do. He wanted comfort. And I was the only guy in the pool that he actually knew. And I wasn't even really in the pool of resumes or whatever. That's all I am. And basically, because I hustled around, I did hustle and got some good recruits, I was able to kind of keep pushing forward. And so to backtrack to the beginning of the conversation, no matter what coach it is, I went to a deal honoring Coach Summit last night. It was incredible. And it's going to air on TV too. Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions covered it. Even Pat Summit needs great athletes, and she had them. She just made them a lot better. So those players will forever be why anytime I got a raise or I got a promotion or I was able to move south and then move into the SEC and then move into whatever's next.
So do you debunk the situation where, because I hear even Mr. Haslam said it yesterday at lunch, he's a great recruiter. And that's what I hear. Well, what about the coach? And what about, we have more money in, he told me this yesterday, to recruit or whatever for that. So is it about, like I talked to you at lunch, just getting the best players and let them play? Or do you go get the high school athlete as much now as the transfer portal? All that to me is just mind blowing. And me being 57, I've had some sad days of like, has everything passed me by? Am I the old fossil now of like not understanding stuff? So enlighten me on that. Like defend the whole, he's a great recruiter.
Well, no, I mean, that's something that I guess the one thing about a coach is if two guys go at it like in a UFC battle, even that can come down to a scorecard and a guy could get robbed. But more times than not, it's like one-on-one, the door's locked, find out who's better. But for a coach, who's the best strength coach or who's the best mentor, there's no way to really keep score on that. So I think you're spinning your wheels anyway if you're comparing yourself too much or trying to know where you rank. You just do as good of a job as you can. But yeah, I still know a coach and I see him and he's friendly with me and I'm okay with the guy. He's not my enemy, but I'll never forget that he was quoted as saying, I don't know how to coach. I'm just a good recruiter. And that's his opinion. I know what I enjoy doing more. It's coaching. Probably what I enjoy more than coaching is competing. And whether you're recruiting or coaching, competing kind of blankets over both of those. So give it a name, call it what you want, but like that phrase will stick with me forever if there's ever a day I need motivation. The biggest thing is you're a person, and whatever you're involved in, you have to learn how to adapt. And you can learn from others. You can learn from your own mistakes. You better pay attention to the current environment. And the current environment is one where you shouldn't feel like you're outdated no matter who you are, or you're uninformed, or I don't really know this or that, because nobody does. It literally is a day-to-day deal, and it kind of sucks. I don't know how Coach Summit would do it these days, but her career at one school and being the front and center piece for the school and always being the basketball, like just that consistency, that loyalty, it's kind of gone. And I apologize for people, Signetti stays with Indiana. He could have done whatever. There's certainly exceptions, but everyone's contract is year to year. You tweak the wrong thing, or recently you do the wrong thing in house, it's over. And you got a relationship with a player. He could be a local kid. It could end in a year, and really we're kind of all day to day. So
You talked about the Indiana coach. I trained the two quarterbacks, the Mendoza brothers. So it's like, okay, on that one, I mean, and Griff has it on film years ago when they came in and trained together, and he wasn't playing a lick of Cali. And I'm like, you're going to be very special. And he's like, why do you say that? I'm like, because you never stop asking questions from the wood gym to the house. Like, how did Chad do it? How did Harrison do it? How did Helton do it? And both the brothers were in the car the whole time. I'm like, those are those little things. Do you see the same thing when you have your guys? Can you see those, what we call the coach's eye? And how did you know this person? How did you know Harrison in eighth grade was going to be special? And you just see those little things. I think that's a sign of a great coach.
Yeah, you want to be able to predict the future. And I kept saying, I was trying to catch myself. I kept saying us and our when I was talking about Tennessee baseball. And part of me is like, well, that's not right. I shouldn't say that anymore. But part of it is dating back when I was at Arkansas, they almost won a national championship and everyone thought I was bitter because I wasn't there anymore. It's like, nah, I recruited all the, like, A, I want to be right. And then B, I have a personal relationship with those kids and of course the coaches too. And so, yeah, until the last body's out of here, that I didn't have a heavy hand in recruiting, I'm going to keep saying R and we now that I think about it. And those are guys that when I saw them, and the other coaches too saw them, you thought if you could predict the future, like this guy's going to be successful, but you don't really know until you're around him every day, because more mistakes have been trying to predict the future on athlete. Like I played in high school against a guy that was, I'm telling you, this guy was athletic as Michael Jordan. Ronnie Fields is his name. Anyone that knows him, or if you look him up, and Ronnie Fields disappeared. And everybody only saw the physical part. But when you're around a kid every day, like you're in here in the wood gym, now you start to get the predictors of, all right, if I'm in Vegas, which guys do I want to bet in here out of these 10 guys working out right now? Mm-hmm. And obviously Mendoza, I mean, all you got to do is hear him talk. But obviously you got to see him operate every day and the questions. Yeah.
When they live with you, you know all their habits and you know everything. That's when, I told my college advisor, somebody's going to do a documentary on this soon, 7 years in the making. And if Tony has time, we'd like to get a quick interview on that. But like, that was what I said to my college advisors my senior year at UT. So I carry a chip also. And I love that chip. And I told Pennington, he was working with some wide receivers. Wayne Corbett was a wide receiver with the Jets. And he's like, I just can't get through to him. I'm like, well, look at him. He was a walk-on at Hofstra. He was a free agent with the Jets. He's not going to drop the chip. You were a first-round, first quarterback taken. So you've got to understand how to motivate him and how to use him. It became his best red zone wide receiver when Chad played. So with that being said, when I did that, I was like, I'm going to open up a gym, and I'm going to have people live with me, just like boxers do all the time, because my father did that, and I understood that. And I was like, you'll be able to tell everything about him. Everything and all their habits. And I think that's it. Everybody's going to be athletic, but like you said, the other part is like how they carry their day, their habits, are they, are they on their phone? Are they watching film at night? Are they gaming? Because I got a game room bonus. You'll see who games, you'll see who drinks, you'll see who does all types of things real quick, and then go, oh, okay, this person's going to fade out. This person's got talent. So it's kind of unique to see that as a coach's eye, and just talking to you, you can see you light up about that.
Yeah. And what you're doing is you're looking forward. Like, what's this guy going to do today? And then I'm going to kind of judge, or try and see what's going on. But you also get to go in reverse and figure out where they're from, or kind of learn some stories about what happened or what's their background. Because the one thing I'm about to dive into is a bigger brand of diversity with these players, what country they came from, what their background is, and how they go about things. And that's why it's so important to I get as judgy internally. I hope I stop it externally because I hate it, but I get as judgy internally as anybody out there. But it's good to have a little calibration or like a filter that's like, hang on a second, you don't know why this guy's doing this. Obviously you see what he's doing, but why is he doing it? I hate to get too steal too much of the mic time here in a row, but
I love it.
Great story for anyone who's judgy like me sometimes. We go to Vegas, go to a UFC fight. The next
I
day,
heard about that. I heard you had like a kick-ass
well,
hat on and stuff.
this was a while ago. This was a different one, 5 or 6 years ago. It was a goofy hat, but I enjoyed wearing it.
I gotta get that
I'm
picture.
sure you made fun of me.
No. Somebody's got to pull it up. I think Lukey pulled it up and goes, "Look at him." I'm like, "Look at Hollywood." Okay.
Yeah. So we had a good time that night, but I'm in Vegas with a pro baseball player, an agent, and another guy. And our flights are like at 7:30, so let's go get a Linner or whatever you want to call it. 4:30.
Yeah.
Aria, very nice Mexican restaurant. Someone out listening probably knows the name of it. And the table, we're in a booth. We're facing a long table of like 11 or 12 dudes, one female. And it is out of control. I mean, there's as much testosterone as you can imagine. We're like, these guys are going to get kicked out. And at some point, we're like, these guys are a bunch of meatheads. And then at another point, the managers have already been over. And then a guy gets on the table. So now we're really dialed into this because it's been a process. It's been about 45 minutes. Finally, we realize that's Dricus du Plessis, the guy who eventually became champion. That was his first big win. He got fight of the night, so he got a huge bonus. And this guy's getting to eat real food for the first time. I mean, hot sauce or you don't get to eat. So if you put it into context, now we understand where these guys are coming from. And we called him over and we're like, dude, that was an awesome fight. We bought him a shot. He went out of his way to take about 10 minutes, stood there, didn't overstay his welcome, but he gave us a lot of insight to the fight, what the walkouts were like, just was really good to us. And so again, by the time the thing was over, we were a monster fan of this guy. But when it all started at the origin, we were basically saying, throw this guy out of the restaurant. He's an idiot, So I think the context is a good example of, kind of what was really going on there.
Yeah, that's a damn good story. And you can have the mic the whole time because I rewatched the first one and you talk amazing. I mean, you got the whole Italian charm, charisma. I wish I.
Well, you fire me up just being in here.
I mean, it's amazing.
The drive brought back memories, and it's so convenient to work out when I did at our facility, and you're fighting the busier things got, it was fewer times here, which sucks. But I have been able to keep in touch with you, and you're quick to throw a jab, which is out of friendship. So I keep looking over and laughing, thinking about some things, but it puts you in a good mood to be around here. So you get yappy.
Well, you really did. I think you had like a low key crush on me at the beginning because you sent me some Nike sneakers.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that. I took a picture of him at the tennis complex, but I don't know if you remember that. It was, and you were like, UT has this phone. And I was like, did I step over? Because I know, Griff, when you unleash this, then people don't understand that I just live here. I'm content but never satisfied.
The picture was very aggressive.
Yes, it was very, and I think that's when we became kindred spirits.
Yeah, we had to be. It was go one of two ways: either report you to the authorities or become closer friends.
Okay, so and I appreciate the latter. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't want to be taken down just yet. I get still more years in me. So how did this? You said I could talk. How did it come about? How did this big move?
Yeah, I think, looking back on it, now I understand some of the questions they were asking about culture and habits here were maybe digging into me a little bit. But when the Giants were calling us on Gavin Keelan, he was their first-round draft pick this year.
Okay.
You imagine you draft a guy first overall with your first pick, you're going to want to know everything inside and out. Okay. So there was a lot of heavy conversations with different members of the Giants, and then ultimately their draft room where Buster Posey, the president of baseball operations, is in there, their GM Zach is in there, and everybody else. And then they trade for Drew Gilbert, who's maybe the most talked about Tennessee baseball player of all time, except for Todd Helton, of course. And they trade for Gilbert and Blade Tidwell, and they want to know things about them and their habits. And there started to be this alignment of they had been watching Tennessee, and some of the things that we had here are what they wanted to replicate there. And again, at that time, I don't know that. And then another conversation came right at the end of the season, and I was like, uh-oh. And I'm landing in Florida for a recruiting trip. I can't even remember which one it was exactly, but I sleep better on planes than I do in a bed, which is probably not a good thing. I wake up, we land, and I got a text from Buster Posey, and it says, when you get a chance, call me. And that's when I was like, holy hell. I could, you talk about predicting the future. I could just see, okay, there's something real going on here. They just got rid of their manager or let their manager go. Bob Melvin was awesome to me, by the way. He reached out to me the same way Dave Serrano did when I was here, which I really appreciate. But I kind of could just envision a roller coaster was going to happen and there was going to be some things to deal with. And I was right. So,
So, and there's the period. But here's the thing: is did you, as a little kid, aspire? Is that my goal, or did it just come out of nowhere?
never. And I didn't want to be rude to people. John Wilkerson's an absolute stud on the radio and then with us with baseball. And he was one of the first ones to say something about something that everybody dreams of. And I was like, no, I didn't want to be rude.
You're right.
But in my head, and it's not, I'm not trying to paint any kind of picture, like never once did it even pop into my head. Until a couple years ago, there was maybe some light conversations with a couple other big league teams. And then it at least got my wheels spinning on like, well, what would I do? Or I can't believe that is even thought of as an option. And then, again, to backtrack as a player, I had all the baseball cards. I loved reading the newspaper. I'd pretend to be guys. I wanted to play at a high level. But I think being a coach's son, I always had a pretty realistic view of who I was as a player. And I just never dreamed it. I mean, I dreamt of maybe somebody making a mistake and drafting me and I at least get to play pro ball, but never the big leagues. Never. Never saw myself in a dugout. And somebody asked me, what park are you most looking for to be like? Is it Yank because of the Yankees, or is it Wrigley because it's old and your dad's? And I was St. Louis. When I go back to St. Louis, I don't know what that's going to be like. Hopefully I can look mature and professional in the dugout, but that's going to be wild because that's my home city.
Wow. Yeah. So it's been a couple months.
October 22nd was the day. If you're listening and I have not responded to a text, I apologize. It was probably sent on October 22nd.
Wow.
And unfortunately, it had gone on for a while, probably 3 weeks, and no one knew a thing. No one. Maybe one person in our building. But I didn't want it to be a distraction. I didn't want it to interfere with recruiting. And I didn't want to bring it up until it was a realistic possibility. On a Saturday, we played Alabama. It became a realistic opportunity. So I thought I was doing right by the people around me by communicating that. And I don't know how, but next thing you know, we're at a scrimmage and, Twitter's going crazy, or at least part of Twitter's going crazy about that stuff. So it kind of happened, in a chaotic fashion, but, here we are.
So Tony, the king of baseball in Knoxville, Tennessee, is here. How was it? Because everybody, I got a lot of people that are fans and ticket holders and Tony, and I'm happy for him. And how was it an up and down?
I wanted to just burst in here and sit down right away because I think that's the best way to have a conversation. But I did have a premeditated thought when I pulled up. People wear shirts and hats that say "Be kind," and I figured you'd ask me about stuff like this, so I was like, that was the one answer I premeditated. It's cliche and it's whatever, and sometimes those, you could categorize people in a hippie category or something, but the power of being kind to people is insane because it changes that person's life. And it also changes your life. You're kind of being selfish in a way when you're nice to people because it makes you feel good. And, the other way, if you get to tell somebody F you because you want to, it may, feel good for a short second. But then it starts this cycle.
You got to carry it.
Yeah, this starts this heavy cycle. And I'm saying all this to say the way people have been to me, and it's best actually to talk about just people in Knoxville, the way people have been to me about encouraging, hate to see you go, but can't wait. Or just people have already bought Giants stuff in Knoxville to take it to the extreme. But even the very low level of like, hey, I know you got to do what you got to do. Best of luck to you. Everything in between. It's been unbelievable. And then I could go outside of that circle and you meet Aaron Boone. It's like, I don't even want to get within a 6-foot radius of him. Like the old social distancing days. Like I'm not worthy of. And how nice that guy was to me last week and some of the others and meeting those guys.
Would you have meetings?
we had the winter meetings,
Oh yeah.
which are annual down in Orlando. You get some free agent talks, some trade talks. Media's there. It's, it's a,
That's right. Low key, I forgot he's the manager of San Francisco Giants because
Yeah.
I just see him as Tony V.
Yeah.
Not just, get the word just. I see you as a good character dude, and it's like, oh wow, you're not the coach.
yeah,
You're not the coach here anymore.
Yeah, you started the whole thing by saying what's going on. And if, in American culture is funny, I was in grad school and we had this sweet little girl from Poland was in grad school. And we had to give a presentation and she was blown away how people on campus say, how's it going? But then they don't wait for an answer. Like, how's it going in America is like a way of saying what's up.
Right.
And even what's up, it's like, well, let me tell you. Well,
Right.
I ain't got time for that.
I really don't care.
So,
right.
But if you were literally to ask me, how's it going? My answer would be, I don't know. Like, I really don't know what's going on. And people keep saying the manager thing. It's like, well, when I actually get to opening day and coach the team, then I'm the manager. And, really it should be spring training, but I don't know. My brain's kind of scrambled and I agree. I find myself in this room of 29 other guys that know the game so well and have played in the big leagues and all this. And it was weird. It was weird. Fortunately, they had me in the very front row, so I couldn't see everybody. But yeah, we just had those winter meetings, and part of it was to be around all those managers. And Pat Murphy's a guy who's had a lot of success. Used to coach at Arizona State. Now he's the manager of the Brewers. And he was great to me and offered advice and confidence. And hey, again, even if it's interesting because I haven't really found a lot of people. I think I got a good BS meter. I've found that 98% of these people coming up to me saying these things, it's from a good place. It's sincere and it changes your heart. It changes your day, but it also starts to alter your mind. Like somewhere in here with the athletes that you work with, you make them tougher, you get them in better shape, but you're trying to get their mind to change from losing thoughts to winning thoughts. And when Pat Murphy says that you'll have success to you, it's like now your brain is fixated on, I'm going to have success, as opposed to doubts and other negative things.
So when I talked to you last, you just purchased the house, right? So in the condo downtown, where that's gone?
Well, the condo I still have, and at the very least for a calendar year, we'll see how it goes. I want to keep that. Again, I want to come back and do whatever, or maybe return some favors and let people, utilize that space. The house, I was just getting ready to like fully move into it, like kind of put my own stamp on it and some new things in there. So fortunately, I hadn't done that yet. Didn't want to sell it though. Didn't want to mess with it. We're busy, but also, I don't know. It's a hard place to let go. The Vols, Knoxville, my friends, the team, hard place to let go. But I got a call from somebody related to a family that you and I know well, and it wasn't a realtor, and it was that connection. And so it made sense to move forward, and it went before I even put it on the market.
So that's out.
That's going.
That's gone.
I think we're invited. I think it was cordial enough. We can go hang out there if you want, but I'm not sleeping there. You have too much of this Woodford, we might be sleeping there, but that's about it.
Okay, so I got to ask you like a corny question, but are you nervous?
Yeah.
I mean, and God bless you.
I don't
see. God bless them, because nervous is a good energy. And I found this, Tony, living with guys when they're with me, the combine guys, the NFL combine guys. We all get in the kitchen, and the day before they depart to go to the NFL combine, we all sit in a round circle. And every time the guy that goes, I don't get nervous, shits the bed on the 40 or whatever it is.
Right.
And all the ones that are like, I get nervous every day I come in and serve others in the morning and I train. I'm like, am I worthy? Am I good enough? I get nervous no matter who it is. It could be a 9-year-old to the up and rising star. So what do you think about nervous?
Well, I think it's natural. I'll tie that answer into another UFC example.
This guy loves UFC, I think. I love it.
I really do. And it's been a good outlet for me. And during COVID, it was the only thing going on. And I'm a single dude hanging out by myself. It became a passion. George St. Pierre, some will argue, is the greatest ever. The only fight he lost was the fight he wasn't nervous. And he can explain it in a lot greater details. I think it was Matt Serra beat him in Houston, Texas. Maybe it was, because I remember the story. He paints it very visually, and he's a good talker. Talked about Houston, Texas, and the walkout he remembers, and those butterflies weren't there. And really what it was probably complacency. And I mean, it could be business, it could be at home, it could be with your family, it could be here. You're setting yourself up for failure if you're complacent. So,
I've been there.
but
Yeah.
I think nervous is an indication that your body's ready for something that's important to you. But I got, which maybe should be emphasized in a mic drop moment, and I just get out of here. But I was gonna cut you off and say I got bad news about the nervous thing. I don't think I'm nervous. I think the word that's, I hope no one's watching or listening, but scared has come up in my head often.
I love it.
And I think, again, both those words could maybe mean the same thing, but I don't know. That's just the word that has popped into my head. And, my dad, I think now is about as juiced as you can imagine about this deal. And he's asked me a million times to be the second base coach, which there's not even a second base coach. I think he's made up a couple other job titles. But when it started, he's a parent. So what is his job? His first thing that goes up is defense mechanism. And he kind of guarded in a way where it's like, well, if you watch TV on pro sports, you're out of job. Everybody's waiting to be fired or you become the owner, or some sort of phrase that Whitey Herzog, a great manager, used to say. And it's like, I get that. But first of all, in the SEC, Mississippi State wins a national championship, and they change head coaches a couple of years later, which I disagreed with, but it's not my place to say, I guess. So anything can happen any given day. The bottom line is, had a challenge presented. I think I made it the personal decision in an educated fashion. But the one thing that threw me off from thinking about it rationally was the 5 or 6 times people said, well, are you scared? Or are you afraid of a challenge? Or don't you think you can be great? That's kind of when, and again, you've seen me in here. I'm not a good athlete. I wear a headband.
I
And
love the headband. I was going to talk about the headband. Don't forget picks.
A lot of 10-pound weights getting thrown around. But, but the one thing I think at some age I finally got, which you got to have as a competitor, is I do bow up a little bit. And so, I don't know. We'll give it hell.
Yeah, I've seen that on the side out on the dugout. Because I see more at this side in the gym, and
right.
at the house or out to eat, and they're like, no. So,
well, I think it's the best athletes I've been around, like Max Scherzer, Ian Kinsler, Matt Perk was a guy at TCU. The best athletes, and Peyton is like, he should be known as a host. He's such a good host, like in social settings and making sure everybody's doing well, because there's no ego. Confidence is not even a topic. It's all the athletic attributes almost don't even exist, other than he's kind of a good leader, I guess. Mm-hmm. But then it's almost boom. You see him in a game and watch the highlight film. He's an assassin.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Pennington, Chad, and I discussed Chad because we started almost at the same time in 92, 93, and had that relationship ever since. And he gets labeled just like Peyton, they're buddies, and between the sidelines, he's a war daddy, but outside of that, he's not. And he's like, I'm trying to get my 3 sons, they're all quarterbacks, and I'm training them all. And he was like, I can't make them that war daddy that they are. And real quick, I wanted to ask you about product of environment, and we've had Mr. Haslam on there, mental toughness and product of environment, and I'm so blessed to have 2 grandbabies now. My grandson is going to be 2 in January, and he's in here every day, and he knows how to do pogos, box jumps, and I was just saying to Harrison and the guys, I'm like, it's not by luck Tiger Woods became who he was. It's debunked it again. Everybody's like, you can make somebody this way and that way and this way. Yeah, probably a little, but I'm not going to waffle in that gray area. I think where you come from is who you're going to be most of the time. And this little guy, what he does in here, product environment, tough, things fall on him. Everybody's like, he's going to get hurt. You got to get him out of there. And what do you think about the product environment of an athlete?
Yeah, I think the setting you're in is going to dictate what you got going on. And obviously, some people are in very difficult situations, whether it's inner city or guys from the Dominican that don't necessarily have the equipment or the resources that kids here do. And I think the story each guy has is told differently. But if you go back to page 6 or 7, there's probably a reason the way they are. That they are. And it might be like a Steph Curry. He was always around the game. And then, the work and the rep reps, the work habits and the reps that he puts in, again, he's around people that value hard work and things like that. And there's some guys that the reason, they're emotional is the game is all they have, or a guy might have a certain level of toughness. I mean, a guy I coached, cold weather's an issue in baseball. And you coach some guys that like they're one guy in a cold weather game and another guy when it's warm. And that ain't a good thing. The toughest player I've ever coached is from Tucson, Arizona. Toughest cold weather player I've ever coached is from Tucson, Arizona. His dad was a warden. So I think the product of your environment thing is huge, but I don't think it just boils down to, hey, you want your kid to be a great golfer, so always have him at the golf course. And there's negative examples of that too, like Todd Marinovich or others, where
Facts.
people try and control too much.
Yeah.
I think one thing that, and I'm not a parent, so it's not my place, but I think if you see a fire, you definitely want to stoke it. Like wait a minute, this kid sure likes this soccer ball.
Yes.
Let's make sure he's got some good shoes to kick it with, and then let's get him around some other guys that like to do that. So I think stoking that fire at the very least is something that probably goes on.
I couldn't agree more. And in the book of Ephesians in the Bible, it's like what you see is important as a parent or a coach, the more than what you say. And watching Azzy again, you'll see markers on the calendar from him. He watches me mark on the calendar. He mimics everything. I feel like the great ones pick up and watch. And I remember Harrison Smith doing a Nike combine in his junior year of high school at the University of Georgia, and the two top players were Harrison and Eric Berry. And he ran his first 40, and it was decently fast. And I said, Harrison, I need 3 degrees on your shin angle. And I was just shouting it to him of like shin angle like that. And he gave me a nod and crushed it. And I got chills telling you that. And I was like, he's special. Because, a lot of athletes that still are good, what do you mean? And they start asking questions. Not saying that's bad, but he processed that so quick. And I just think that's a product of environment of, his father's a surgeon, so he came up and he's a very smart kid. But now his privilege was private school also, but he drove an old Bronco in high school and he trained. He's never left the den here. Everybody else has tried something different in an off season. Mm-hmm. He stayed here because he's like, it's simple, it's basic, and it works. And why would I leave if it works? And he never overcomplicated that. Do you see your best athletes keep it more simple?
Yeah, and stay true to their roots is kind of one thing you're talking about. But we had a guy train with us in the winter and the off season, had his career year, and then the next off season he went somewhere else. Which there might have been family reasons and maybe other things led to that season not going as well. But I think an active brain is awesome. You talked about asking questions earlier, mm-hmm. but sometimes those thoughts get spinning too much, and you make things more complicated than they really are. And hey, at the end of the day, again, I think staying true to what got you there is huge, but probably what got you there is the work. So as long as you're doing the work, you're in a good spot. I think if you're trying to make the work something that it's not, it can get a little dicey. But yeah, Harrison seems like, every time you talk to, just incredibly well balanced. So just everything. And so it makes sense to hear a pretty balanced background too. Like, didn't have to want for things, but also kind of a blue collar deal. And
mm-hmm.
and man, you mentioned, I think you mentioned Eric Berry. I think kids use aura in one of their goofy phrases now, or text messages. However they talk about the word aura. But to me, what aura means is when you see somebody, there's a certain energy. I got to meet that guy. That was like a powerful, almost kind of like if you get too close, it almost kind of socks you in the face type aura. Mm-hmm. So some pretty special athletes there.
But I love chalk talk, and I don't get much with a coach, and I know you got things to do, but you did bring up a thing, and I could answer that for you, because I did ask Harrison that. I was like, how does a guy come train with me and make Pro Bowl, and the next season they go somewhere else? And Harry's like, because they think they have to do something different to keep improving instead of keep doing the same thing, because it's constantly, we talked about in the podcast, if you're not changing, you're not growing. If you're not changing, you're not growing. Well, I go, Harry, why do you keep coming back here? He goes, because I know what I'm going to get. Like, yeah, Harrison was great about 6 or 8 week into every season. He would send me foot training or ankle training, something different to keep working, but he still came back here because he knows it was going to smell the same way, the rubber mats, whatever it was, where those guys go, okay, now I have to change it because I just had a Pro Bowl year, and they never do the same thing.
100%. So many examples of that. The worst way that infects people is hitters, because you always want to tinker and you always want to do. So Skip Bertman, legendary coach at LSU, he used to say, good is the arch enemy of great, which is a phenomenal phrase, quote, way of life. But built into that, or I guess contradictory to that, or what is also true, is good enough sometimes. So, and as I sit here,
Petronism, I'm taking it from Tony.
Yeah, it is, because it applies to that. So I think, with anything, you can't just like you can't put a label on a person, putting a label on a concept, or just having that poster on the wall. Well, you got to kind of dive in and understand what it applies to, because I think both are phenomenal sayings. And, as I sit here in a chair, I'm like, damn, it's so good to be a coach. You can say, like, how do you hold a baseball? Well, firm but loose. It's like, well, shit, which one is it? There's a delicate balance there. But hell yeah, good is the arch enemy of great. If you're in a company and we're good with these numbers, we're going to be good with these numbers. You're never going to be great. So you want to keep pushing. But I think the way you keep pushing is under the umbrella of the values that have your group, not any other group, having success. And so you see these hitters, and I'm sure Todd Helton, you and I know him. I mean, he's a pretty swing, but at the heart and soul, that is a fighter, a competitor. And so, like no other. So good is good enough for him. If my swing feels good, I don't need to tinker. I don't need to go see an extra hitting coach. I'm ready to go into battle because I'm a warrior. And so that's something that I'll, be taking it to the next level, I guess, with me, that hopefully guys don't tinker too much.
Oh my gosh. And you're right. I mean, Helton's in here all the time. His daughter trains in here, and even the baseball kids. I'm like, hey, ask Todd a question. He's always like, see the ball, hit the ball. But then he goes, let me see your swing. And he'll always it's just like the coach, like he gives them one simple thing to work on, and the kid will come back the next day, and Todd doesn't get the feeling of, hey, I did it. I have to tell him, but the kid comes and goes, that totally changed. I'm like, well, it is Todd, because he could look at this wall of swings of other guys and go, not. He could he could watch one swing of that. So yeah, I think that's
he's a good soul. And
you're coaching. You're coaching right now. You're talking and coaching, because I was just
I'm trying to hold myself up to your standards.
No, it's good, because here, when you go to the pros, you're not going to be labeled, he's a great recruiter, right? Yeah. Other people are going to be doing that. So you're going to have to coach the team that they put together, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome, because it's been a very collaborative environment. I've used that word 77 times the last couple of weeks. But that's what it's been. So they've asked my input, and I feel like a part of it, but it is different. Like, I'm not deciding how much scholarship money a guy is getting, or the chaos that was going on the last few years and all that stuff. So
do you think it's going to be simple in the way of coaching? I know it's complex, but like when I would always talk to you, it was one of those formulas where you see all these algebra formulas come, because you're like, yeah, I got this guy here, and I got 46 guys here, and it's got to be down to 40, and I got to get this money, and this guy gets pencil and book money, but 75% of this. And It's like, where'd the art of coaching go?
Right. No, I think it's going to be a little bit more of that for me, but a lot of it is going to be managing situations and people, as opposed to, I mean, there's more X's and O's probably, since recruiting's kind of being sliced out of there. But I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be managing actual situations and people.
Personalities?
Yeah, more than it will be swings and X's and O's and strategy and things like that. But we'll see. I don't know what I don't know. But, you brought up Todd. I mean, what I hope at the end of the year, and again, to me, we're all year by year, is that I feel like everyone around me has my back because they want to, but also they know 100% I have their back. And that sticks out of my mind, because you brought up Todd, and he did a couple games on the radio, I think, or TV.
Oh yeah, we were in Gourmet Market. Dude, this is a great story. We're sitting there. First of all, Tony was running late. Okay, so we're on the same side. He's like, I'm sitting next to you, so I could talk to Tony, because a handbagler there.
You guys looked cute.
Right. We're cute. So I'm like, hey, Todd, at some point you got to get on the other side. He just texted and said he's running 15 minutes late. He's like, oh, my bad. So when he was sitting there, he goes, yeah, I'm going. And you guys were talking about it. And we talked that night. And I go, hey, Todd, can I ask you a question? I said, what makes you want to do that, like color commentator? Because we all know Helton, like, okay, like, you got it. You had to interview him at his house for the doc. So he goes, well, Charlie, I'm afraid of that, because it's a fear of mine. And I go, well, I'm afraid of heights. You don't see me trying to jump out of an airplane. And he went F you and hung up. But yeah, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a game where, I let emotions or some Italian fire get the best of me. And, there was a little bit of criticism to it, but he defended me. And, a lot of this stuff, I only get hearsay and I don't actually listen or get on social media, but I heard it for myself too. And he didn't have to do that, because what you're getting paid to do really in the broadcast booth, even the home announcers are, stating your opinion. But I think, I don't know. I don't think it was because of our personal relationship. I just think it was maybe he saw the competitiveness. Again, when you're out there competing, you should have freedom to do, and I'm speaking more on the athlete's behalf more than anything, because you talked about Pennington's the same way as Peyton and these other great athletes we've been around. When you're in uniform, it's like you're out at recess at school. Like in school, you got to have your feet on the floor and pay attention. In my school, you had to have your back on the desk, and the nun would hit you with a ruler if not. But when you got recess, boy, it was run around and yell and scream as loud as you can. And hell, dodgeball, you might even find the wink link and hunt some heads. But it's like, come on, man. Like Jose Batista, I ran into him. He was super nice to me. It was kind of funny. We were both going to the Cincinnati versus Messi's Miami team game. And just saw him standing there waiting for his Uber. And that guy hit the most controversial home run ever with his bat flip. And to me, he probably threw it in the wrong direction. He threw it in the direction of the other team's dugout. But if you're watching that game in that situation, that buildup, if you hit a ball that far in that situation, buddy, do what you got to do.
I remember JP Arancibia when they were all training, the Yannis, the Hochis, and they were all in the mix here. He was defending them, and the other ones were like, oh, well, and I'm like, he's basically said you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I know we got things to go, and he's got to go everywhere. I'm so happy you came by. Really, it means the world to me. And I'm going to follow your career, and it's going to. I'd love listening to the coaching of him, because I was tired of the recruiting and the money, and because I asked him that at lunch last time. Like, is it just the most money gets the best team, and it's a travel team, and doesn't that take away from what you want to do? That's like a kid coming in here, which we've had. I'm going to do my own off-season program, and Harrison be like, why the hell are you here? And you'd watch a guy do a program in here and go, okay, I'm getting paid the same whether you do this, the program or not, but you felt so vanilla. You felt like you couldn't give what you had to give.
Yeah, things have gotten a little skewed. And, if, again, to get back on the judgy train, if some people are going about it the wrong way and looking for the wrong things, whether it's the most NIL money or whatever, maybe that opens up an avenue for somebody who normally wouldn't be able to push through. And, a coach now wants a guy because he's more loyal, or a guy is taking pictures the night before a game against Florida for NIL purposes, and he's not focused. So he loses his spot and another guy kind of jumps up into it. It could be a variety of things, but, either way, I'm like you. Sooner or later, a hard worker is going to succeed. And also, if you keep doing the right things, not only will you be successful, but you get some breaks. You got some karma on your side. There's something to that. Frank would always talk about the pitchers he's coached. He can't put a thumb on it, but the guys who kind of always go about their business the right way, the line drive seems to go into the guy's glove, or a double play at the right time, or the umpire stretches the strike zone a little bit. And I just think that's the case for everybody.
I agree with that. And I'll leave it on this, but like, again, when these guys live at your house, and I'm like, that's going to catch up to you. Maybe not this off season this year, but the stuff you're doing is going to catch up, and it never fails. It always does, compared to the person that has the balance and doesn't.
Yeah. And every one of us, if I could put an umbrella over everyone, we all look back and say, if I knew now what I at freshman year of high school, I would have behaved a lot better and I would have had a lot more success in some areas.
Yeah.
So why not listen to the person that has gone through that, so that when you're older, you are going to say, these high school kids that train in here, when you're 30, you are going to say, I wish I would have known this when I was in high school. Well, eliminate as many of those as possible by listening to the people that are no longer in high school.
And that's funny. You talked about not being a parent yet, but you'd be a hell of a parent because you got those values. But I used to say to the girls, my two girls, my eyes have seen what your eyes haven't yet.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to help you out with some, I want you to, hit the puddle. I don't want to be the mud puddle parent, but my eyes have seen what you're right. They all come back. And even Griff, he trained in high school and he's like, man, if I would have done it again, it would,
Sure.
Yeah, it's all the same way. Tony V, man, thank you so much for coming. I know, I'll leave it at this too. I have my YouTube on all the time at the house and I'm playing all the different songs. And when the Morgan Wallen comes through, I always have to watch him. It gives me chills watching him run out of the tunnel because he's like so excited. And if I could tell people to stay in the moment, and he looks like he's in the moment. I didn't go to the concerts or whatever, but watching him, I know that's cornballish, but I was watching you it was like, that's what Italians are. We're built on passion and love, I mean, that's how I do. All my workouts come from feel. You have all the knowledge you need, but at the end of the day, it's what do you feel in that day?
Yeah, and he doesn't have the Italian blood, but he's got that furnace burning too. And I think these athletes that train in here, it'll serve you at some point. And I think most people know in East Tennessee, Morgan thought he was going to be a baseball player. Has an arm injury and takes a little bit more to the guitar. And if you're watching him on stage or just his attitude in general, there's so many things that come from a place of competitiveness or just traits you would label an athlete. And he's got that fire burning, and it's a huge part of why he's super talented and he's a sweet dude. He's a great dude. I know that sounds weird to say, but he really is.
No.
But I think the number one thing he's got going for him is he's got that furnace in his belly that a lot of great athletes that you've got to work with have.
Yeah. I mean, I love watching that energy on him. You can't fake passion. I've always said that. You either have it or you don't, and everybody's trying to look for it. Don't look for it. It'll come.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Tony V, thank you. I know you got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I got to be Santa. The first time in my life, I got to dress up like Santa tonight for a charity thing.
He's always, are you kidding me?
No, I'll send you a picture.
Please do. Tony.
Don't put it on this.
I won't. We got it. Thank you so much, brother. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too, brother.
That's awesome.